Okay, so thank you to the previous presenters. It's a hard one to follow. It's not research-based, my particular project. It is around teaching, but more outreach and engagement. And it kind of comes from a fairly convoluted space where myself and a colleague, Luigi De Luca, in 2016, established a responsible innovation network for Cardiff University, which was research-based, looking at interdisciplinary research, which was problem-led, grand challenge-led, which is something I'm sure Calvin will approve of, given what the school's trying to do and is doing. And at that particular launch, we did it at the Clink restaurant in Cardiff, which, as you'll know, is a charity that supports offenders to come back into mainstream society through training. We had the event, we had a really great event, and I teach entrepreneurship, or have been teaching entrepreneurship at undergraduate and postgrad level. And it struck me that the model that they had at the Clink, where they were supporting offenders through their training in front of house and in the catering, that maybe there's a way in there. Maybe I can do something around entrepreneurship that might help those particular individuals. So I started a conversation with continuing education here, someone called Jan Stevens, who's been a brilliant supporter, and talked to the Clink, and I got nowhere. But I had started the conversation with continuing education, and continuing education, Jan Stevens said, well, have you talked to the Welsh Refugee Council? Because we have lots of adult learners from that particular community who have very little opportunity and who would ideally or hopefully benefit from some outreach teaching that you might do, not with offenders, but with refugees. So that was the conversation that started in 2016. In 2017, I ran the first, I guess, test of this module. And this module forms the basis of the public value engagement project which the school has supported. And the first running of it in 2017 was outside the remit of the public value project. The running last year was within the remit. And what I'm going to talk a little bit now is about the module, and then I'll talk to you about what we did with the money that we got from the project, which was actually to run individualized workshops within Butte community to enable women from Muslim communities to come and experience entrepreneurship as a possible opportunity with a colleague, Shumaila Yousafzai, who is Muslim and was able to present to that audience in conjunction with one of our entrepreneurs in residence, which was Iana Samuels. So the project has come from here and is developed, and it continues to develop, actually. So what is it? Well, I would say it's a very small step to social inclusion because of the numbers of people that we're working with, but hopefully, even though it's a small number, that the impact that we have is worthwhile and meaningful, I guess. The business school, myself and other colleagues who have been supporting me with this, we built a relationship with the Welsh Refugee Council, who are our sponsors with adult learners. So they're the ones that go out and find the adult learners for us. As I mentioned, Jan Stevens from Continuing Education Department has been the one that's been providing all the administrative support. They do all the background work, they provide the rooms in the university, and have been excellent in enabling us to run the project. And then we've been working very closely with the student organisation Enactus, which has provided us with lots of really able and exceptional undergraduate and postgraduate students who want to go on the module with the adult learners. The innovative bit about the module is that it's done as a team exercise where we pair up asylum seekers with Enactus students. Enactus students are self-selecting, as I say, and exceptionally motivated. So they're a good bunch to have. They're political scientists, there are a few from the business school, there are computer scientists too, so it's a really nice mix. The idea of the module, and it's a 9-week module, I'll come on to that in a minute, is to create positive social benefits. In other words, it's a safe space for asylum seekers to share their worries and concerns, and using that to build development projects, which we hope then to carry on through the partnership with Enactus. So the module is about inclusion and experience and sharing, come up with projects which we then hope to carry through with Enactus, because Enactus is all about social inclusion and social projects developed around a particular model that they have. This is about allowing the asylum seekers to feel included and valued. They have terrible stories that they share with the students. The students who live in a white middle-class bubble, for the most part, are confronted with these unpleasant realities that people have when they come into Cardiff, and it's a particular eye-opener for them, and a good thing for that. They come up with projects, and I'll talk about that in a minute, by the end of the module, and what we're working with Enactus now, as I mentioned, is actually turning those ideas into something more tangible. That is a slow process. It's a torturous process. Haven't been particularly successful so far, but we're at the point where one project is starting to emerge, and that's with Computer Science Department. So as I say, what is this particular project? Well, it started in 2017. The funding has been around the work we did last year. It's a 9-week taught module. It's accredited to level 0. So in other words, anyone can really basically go on it. What we find though is that the asylum seekers are trained engineers, accountants, doctors, overly qualified, incredible people really, but that's the only opportunity they have to engage in anything, because as asylum seekers they have no rights. They have no ability to get employment. There is no way of including them within mainstream activities. So one of the novelties of working with Enactus is that we've enabled them to be members of Enactus, which gives them access to the university, as does coming on this module, which has opened incredible opportunities for them, of which I will mention in a bit. We have a cohort normally of 9 to 10 adult learners from the asylum-seeking community. We have the same number of volunteer Enactus students, as it's 9 weeks, Wednesday afternoon, so it's not within the normal teaching timetable, and I'm going to have to jig my section head responsibilities to be able to continue doing this, but we'll continue doing it because it suits the Enactus students, because they would otherwise be doing sport, but they're doing this. I would otherwise be running a meeting and I'm doing this. This is much better. Rachel didn't hear that. And we are now planning the next cycle, which hopefully will start this semester. And there's some interesting and exciting developments around that. It's a problem-solving exercise. Basically, we get the asylum seekers to share their stories about how unpleasant it is to be dropped into Link's house, which is the main hostelry where people are delivered when they hit Cardiff. We use their experiences to define problems, and then we go through the entrepreneurial process of problem definition and due diligence with the teams of asylum seekers and Enactus students, once they've chosen an issue, to go and test what they think the problem is and how they might go about resolving it. And by the end of it, they present a 10-minute presentation to talk about what they would do. And that's what the module entails. But it's much more than just what the module delivers. It's about the context within which you create conversation and friendships between the asylum seekers and the students. The students are the energy and the enthusiasm and the creativity behind it. One of the ideas was to create an African, this says Sierra Leone, food market stall. We ran this in the student union, made over £200, of which was distributed among the asylum seekers. We didn't tell anybody. I'm not sure I should have said that on film, but it was about helping them. They cooked fantastic food. How could they earn money? Well, it went back to them. This is the group from this year, and we have Zimbabweans, we have Syrians, we have Libyans, we have Palestinians. As I say, we have artists. It's an amazing group. This particular chap here, his name's called Sam. Oh, look at that. He is part of one of our success stories. There are some other success stories about what's happened beyond the module. So one of the projects that came out of this was how do asylum seekers actually connect with the community once they arrive into Cardiff. They get a few pamphlets from Links House, they get fed at Links House, they have very little else to help them. Sam's story was that he'd spent 5 months in Links House and didn't make one friend in that time. He was too scared and too isolated. His solution within their team was just to develop a multilingual information sheet. Very simple, and that's what they talked about, and they looked at the feasibility of that and the types of information that might go on it, and that's what they delivered as their final piece of assessment, and needless to say, it was really, really rather great. So what have we done? So with Enactus, because Enactus are looking for projects to develop social enterprises and social development projects, we went back to them, and because I've got connections within computer science, we went to the National Software Academy, and they said, well, look, we can't use it as a main project, but what we will do is get the computer club to work with you to come up with a feasibility study. And that's what we're just about to embark on, which is working with the asylum seekers from that team and Sam, who came up with the idea. He's a pilot, by the way. He's a commercial pilot, but he can't get work. To test an idea for what that information sheet would look like, but as an app and as a website. So we work with the computer science to develop a project which they're interested for first year students with the asylum seekers to come up with the information that would necessarily go on the website. Enactus will then take that on and will push it through over the next year or so, hopefully, to actually come up with a project which has tangible benefits for asylum seekers as they come into Cardiff. I'm in conversation with Cardiff Business School at the moment about taking some of their old computers so we can put them in Links House so that we can actually put something in place once that development takes place. And so the module has opened up something far more. So it's the immediate benefits you get, and then it's the building of something new through that relationship, and that continues. In terms of the PV budget, in answer to Calvin, who's going to ask this question, is where did you spend your money? This didn't cost anything. This cost nothing. It's just time. And I guess as a prof, I can say I'd like to do this, and no one said no, so boo-hoo, that's what I'm going to do. In terms of money, we then got a colleague, Shumaila, and one of the entrepreneurs in residence, Yana Samuels, to run workshops in Butetown to test the material that we've been using to teach the problem solving and entrepreneurship, to see whether it made any sense to someone who's not white, middle class. And that's what we were doing with that, because we want to develop that material so that it becomes much more usable than perhaps it might otherwise be. So the money was spent on that. It was spent Butetown. We got a creche so the little kiddies could come along and the mothers could actually be part of the day. We're running another one in another month. It's been really good to get working with one of the entrepreneurs in residence. The next installment of this story is that out of the Responsible Innovation Network research work that I've been doing, I'm working with someone called Barbara Burton, and she's the CEO of Behind Bras. Now that's a charity that supports women ex-offenders. And that project, and it may be a PV project, it may not be, don't know, because I'm not sure we're ready to do that yet, but what the aim of that is to work with her because she works in the area of fashion and design, to pull together this module with her professional development module, and then to bolt in work with local colleges around fashion upskilling. So this module becomes, this is how you do education with the support of Enactus. So you have women ex-offenders on Rottle in the community who then come to the university, who do the module, who create the context for them to go and do stuff with Barbara. And then if that leads anywhere, then it might well lead to further education through fashion and design work. That's that.